Hey everyone, and welcome to Patriot Crusader Missions Podcast 2. I'm your host, Jason Perry, joined by my lovely wife.
I'm Lauren. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and for all you old schoolers who've been around with us for the past 2 years.
Yeah, something
like that. Lauren is not a new face to you guys, but since this reincarnation of Patriot Crusader Mission, this is your debut.
It is. It's my maiden voyage.
Yes. So everyone's been really loving the Ken content. Ken Graves is just such an authority on the Bible and Scripture and being a spiritual warrior. Mm-hmm. I wanted, the segment that we do with Lauren, I want to be, a lot different. We, Lauren and I, we are husband and wife, so imagine that we don't agree on everything.
Surprise.
Surprise. But
much to his chagrin.
Yeah. I've done as much as I can do, guys. We've come a long way, and we'll talk about that today. But
life is boring if you agree all the time.
Right.
As long as you agree on the essentials.
Right. So what I want to do in the segments that I'm going to be doing with Lauren, which will be probably one a week, is we're going to break down current events. Not all of them. We're not going to be a news station or anything like that, but just talk about some things that are either troubling or optimistic, kind of the passions of the week, I guess I would say, and what they mean to you, your family, your community, and what you should be doing about them. So, so you guys know my story already. Lauren, you want to tell a little bit about yours?
Sure. So as it relates to the mission, should I just start by saying this? I was a Democrat.
Yeah.
I was a sheep.
In fact, Lauren used to wrote an awesome article called Confessions of a Sheeple.
Yes. So to expand on that, so I guess I would say I was an uneducated, kind of uncommitted Democrat. It was more because it was convenient in the moment. It was the social group that I was surrounded in, but I didn't really care. I was not very invested in the political talking points. That's just what I grew up in. Love is love, all of that good stuff.
Well, and I know that you're big you love the environment, so you knew that supposedly Republicans hate the earth and want to drink poison water, and only the Democrats care about trees.
Yes. I think there's some balance there. I definitely think that I have educated myself a lot more on the other side of the coin that I used to not know. When I was before Jason, post-college, before Jason, kind of figuring out where I was on things, I was definitely a closet interested dabbler in the Republican ways.
This is really important that you guys understand this, because this is the impact that you can have on social media. So go ahead, Lauren.
Well, so at that point, I was friends on Facebook with a few Republicans. And I don't know, Beth Marcus, if you watch this, you influenced this because she would share, she was my landlady, and she would share clips from Fox and a lot of like Megyn Kelly at the time.
Yeah. Before she went traitor.
And I would be sitting there by myself in my little apartment being like, that makes a lot of sense. But I can't tell anybody. And so I definitely had a willing mind. And then I met Jason, and Jason, he's very convincing. And he likes to educate and show people the way. So he showed me the way. And so that's where I am now. But I was not in this mindset in the slightest, politically, safety-wise, any of it. was not my upbringing. So it is possible to change minds. I don't think that most of the ways people go about it on social media is effective in the slightest. But if any of you are in a relationship with someone who's not on the same page, at least on some things, there's ways to find common ground, to change minds, change hearts. Jesus has a lot to do with it. I will say that too.
What does?
Jesus.
Yeah. Yep.
I was not religious either prior to meeting Jason, and that was an even longer journey than the politics.
Oh, well, you want to talk about your testimony? We can roll your testimony.
Briefly, it doesn't need to be a long version. So I was raised in a non-religious home. Both parents prior Catholic, neither practicing. My dad kind of avidly, as far as I understand it, avidly not a believer anymore, not practicing. My mom just fell away from the church stuff.
Churchianity.
So I called myself an atheist growing up, liberal schooling in southern Maine. Not as outspoken as Jason says he was, but
yeah. But let's talk about that, because I think this is important. And those of us everyone who's been watching the Ken Graves series knows that we've talked about the schools. And, were you given a choice, or was evolution ever presented to you as theory?
No, I never questioned it at all. And definitely thought that, I can't remember, I think it was Ken talking about the stereotype of like Noah's Ark and stuff like that. It's always presented as a cartoon, and just everything there. Always thought that how could people don't actually think that's true.
Right.
And I had several conversations, I can't remember if about evolution, but just religion in general, with my band teacher, Mr. Watts, in high school, because he's a believer, and I thought I remember
you've mentioned his name, and you speak very fondly of him.
Oh, absolutely. And he was one of my favorite influences through school, but I remember he was like the only person I ever really engaged in conversation with about religion. And
you planted the seed,
he
Mr.
being
Watts.
a believer, and I was, very smart high schooler.
Right,
and
knew everything, right?
I thought he was ridiculous. So that's kind of where I grew up. Yeah, I never questioned. I was science smart, and so you never questioned it until you had me read the book. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, and then it was like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
They never gave me the opportunity or never encouraged to look at the holes in this. And if you thought long enough, the individual person could come up with the holes, but you certainly were not pushed to look at that in the public school system. So I never cared enough to look.
Right. The thing that I find is such a disservice is science should be question everything. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, literally.
Well, that's what they say to encourage.
They say, but that's not what they do. Right. That's settled science, but is it ever really settled science?
Well, it's kind of presented. Yes, it's called a theory, but basically it's fact. Mm-hmm. Is how you look at a lot of scientific theories. It's been around long enough, and it's concrete enough. Don't question it. Don't spend time.
Right. So, looking now being a mom, and we'll continue on with your testimony, do you think that parents should trust their kids, Christian parents should trust their kids in public schools?
No. I'd say that largely the school system, especially now how it's going, for many reasons, religion being one of them, but no, I think that's one of, and we've talked about it before, one of the benefits of the COVID reality right now is that parents are seeing for the first time in a while what their kids are actually learning.
The garbage.
And some parents will probably be thrilled by what they're learning, but right. I think it's going to open the eyes of a lot of more conservative Christian-leaning families as far as, oh, that's why my kid's been acting like this or questioning this or right. talking like this. That's being pushed on them in school.
So, all right. So you're in high school. You've got this really nice band teacher who's you feel like you're way smarter than, and then you're off to college.
Yeah.
Is there any testify. I know you had a tough experience in college. Any spiritual moments there?
Never. Not that
I mean, you struggled in your first college trip away, right? It's your first real long trip away.
Yeah, well, it wasn't
in Gettysburg, and then
it wasn't homesickness or anything like that. Just I'm not very good at making friends, guys. I'm not into the party scene, and Gettysburg was apparently a party college, and I was the only girl that didn't join the sorority and all that. So it just wasn't my scene, and I don't. We've had talks that you hate the people who are like, oh, my poor college life, and it's like that's not really relatable to most people. So I don't really want to go down that road. But I had the terrible roommate and the terrible friends and all of that, and the biggest testament to the negative experience I had is that I transferred out of Gettysburg kind of at the end of summer. I ended up taking a semester off and I just stayed home. I had been there for 2 years. So I had met a lot of people. Wow. Not a single person reached out to me to say, where are you? Not a single person. So that's how big of an impact I left on Gettysburg. So I left there, took a semester off, transferred to a school in Maine. I finished out on time there. Had a Bachelor of Science in Animal Behavior, so I went.
So now you're in the sciences in college, and how is that?
I mean, it's again the liberal education as far as kind of in your science classes of. It was very environmental, climate change heavy, and very. It was the typical line of don't question. I didn't encourage to question anything.
Right. So not being a college guy, I was always hoping that colleges, or I imagined colleges, the historian in me from high school would picture Greek philosophers debating.
Yeah, well, I think that's the concept, to go and have your beliefs challenged and your mind expanded, but that's certainly not what it is anymore. I think that's a pretty 99% known fact. A lot of kids will come home, and conservative kids will come home from college and say that they would write papers based on how they knew their professors wanted them to. Otherwise, they would fail.
One of the guys we know, Kevin, went to Michigan and would write a paper from a conservative perspective and get a C, turn around, rewrite the paper from a liberal perspective and get an A+.
Yeah, it's really a shame. In the same way that with news, you used to not know what the news anchor's political beliefs were, it also used to be the same way with professors, and absolutely not the case anymore. So yeah, I mean, we have our little baby B, and we're ways off from thinking about school, but homeschooling and or a private Christian type school is certainly the way I think that we'll need to go with that, and then we'll have to figure out the college piece.
Yeah.
Just enlist her in the military.
Yeah. Oh boy, I don't even want to think about that.
Maybe not. Yeah. There's a nice online college, right? Liberty Online.
Yeah. So you graduate.
I make my way down to Virginia, and I find myself in a nice little collective of older lady crazy dog ladies. Sorry for anyone who's watching. Crazy dog ladies, and largely liberal, but there were certainly influences there. Kind of being in the South, it was being around people who were more religious than I'd ever been before. The first family, again, who rented me an apartment above their garage, Joanne Walker, who's in heaven now, she would invite me, she invited me to go to Easter service with them. Cool. And I was not a believer then, so I said no. And I wish now that I had gone. Yeah. But so it was starting to kind of be around more. And Thea Yancey is she kind of adopted me. I was her adopted daughter down there, and she's religious. Her John Yancey, great man of faith. So starting to be around it, be more comfortable with it, but never absorbed it.
Right. And then we met.
And then we met. And you haven't shared, have you shared you've shared your testimony before, but not through this forum. So I certainly thought, so Jason asked if I would explore faith with him again, because he was on his little crisis because of Connor. And I said sure, because I was positive that I was going to get him back from that silly religion stuff and convince him that not believing was a much better choice.
Like, I remember those days when we were dating. We'd be up talking about macro evolution till like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And it was really an exciting time where I had to kind of justify, as a Christian in crisis of faith, because my son had autism and I was angry at God for throwing that challenge at me and him. And having to go back and retread that was actually pretty darn healthy for me.
Well, and what's interesting is, like, you would pose questions, and I had just somewhat recently, 5-6 years, had graduated with a Bachelor of Science, and I had taken all these classes. I was supposedly educated, and the questions that he was asking,
called her my scientist.
And so kind of the evolution stuff, and how is it that we all have, that mammals, we all have very, similar hand structures.
Hands, flippers, wings.
And, and it was like, well, evolution, we all, came from the same. And you'd ask questions, and I'd be like, I can go back and find the source. And I wouldn't be able to go back and find what I thought was in my head as the reason. Or you said, well, if the design worked, why wouldn't God give us all the same design?
Right.
Oh, well, I guess that makes sense too, but no, Yeah. So those conversations certainly started breaking down what I was sure was true from my education.
And then I don't have enough faith to be an atheist.
Yeah. So that book, if anyone has someone on the fence who had an education like mine and like Jason's, as far as kind of the science route.
Or a critical thinker who just wants to, like, look at some things and really, leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities of, that's the number stuff. Is like, okay, the chances that this is an accident, or the one in a blank chance that any of this happened, without divine intervention, it's like, okay, maybe there's some thought necessary here.
Right. So I remember that book took me from atheist to agnostic, meaning, okay, I don't know if we're an alien experiment. I don't know what the heck's going on here, but I see intelligent design, and I don't think this is chaos theory, random chaos going on, and that we just happen to roll the 0.00000, to the infinity 1%, and we're here.
Yeah.
And what did it do for you? Because I know it took a while for you to get to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I
moved a lot quicker than you did.
You moved quicker, and you admitted to yourself you moved quicker.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn.
No. Could you say that one more time for the camera, please? Look directly in the camera.
I'm stubborn. So I don't know if I even sat down and thought to myself, okay, yes, this has moved me click away from atheist. But it definitely, I would have in the same breath said, okay, yes, this is making me think. They never taught me to think about this in school. So yeah, it definitely opened my mind to being willing. And then we went to a couple church services, which made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too.
And that didn't do anything for me.
I mean, the only church service I've ever been to where I haven't been uncomfortable has been Calvary Chapel, Bangor.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed City Church more than you did, I think.
The music?
No. I think I could relate more to, because I'm the college girl, so I could relate.
For those of you who don't know, City Church is a nice church in Charlottesville that's kind of based around the UVA.
And seeker friendly. At that point, I was.
And it's very seeker friendly.
So it was a softball enough opening into me being comfortable being at church. It was a good community.
Right.
We knew people there. So that was that was one of the first places. And the Point, and they have a lot of stuff that I know we disagree with, but the Point had a very welcoming community as well. And so those two environments.
I've never seen a church welcome people as well as the Point. Unfortunately, the pastor's a phony, but.
Yeah, so those were the first places that I felt comfortable being in church. But it was really the small group that we started. And we started in small groups. Yes, of course.
I started this whole small group with the whole goal to get Laura to come to Jesus.
Yeah, so if any of you are not in a small group, and I know so Jason's doing the one online on Thursday nights for the men here, if you're a Patreon member, I strongly encourage the small group environment for people. So we had like 4 different couples who were all friends of ours, so it wasn't any strangers. Everyone was comfortable with each other. Yeah, I
think that was a pretty unique aspect of that. So we generally liked everyone already, and we had these great ambitions of what we were going to do, and we rolled in this small group, and 2 or 3 of the marriages were in crisis. So we dropped everything. I researched, and I went to John Eldredge is one of my favorite influences. So we went into the John Eldredge's Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Is Wild at Heart or no? No, Love and War.
Love and War.
Love and War marriage series, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And rolled into that and just got to know everyone better.
Yeah, it was good. And so at that point, I still wasn't a believer, but that really helped me because I was going through this series, and people knew that I wasn't necessarily going to participate in all of the conversations. And we were newlyweds at that point, so I felt a little uncomfortable chiming in with, this is how we should do things to these people who've been married for 15, 20 years. But I really, really liked the Christian approach to marriage. Yes. And how they navigated marriage issues and respecting each other and the dynamic of husband and wife, that really resonated with me. So I think that was one of the things that really pushed me towards, okay, I like this lifestyle. I can see my heart was softening towards the whole thing through that.
Right. And I was just talking to a brother in faith the other day who's having some marital trouble, and I said, I made a lot of mistakes, in relationships. And when God blessed me with your heart, I said, this is the one thing in my life I'm going to do right. And, so I tried to take everything I had. I tried to fight for your heart every day. I tried to never let you go a day without knowing that I love you. And try to put your needs first, always. And in theory, that should make the other person want to do the same for you. You are really good at reciprocating at that. Like, you're better than I am. And I have seen other examples where it's a one-way street and it doesn't work. They don't pick up on the leadership.
Yeah.
So
I think that's hard. I mean, and again, I'm not the most competent at this or the most educated on what the Bible says, but as far as how a man is supposed to be towards his wife and the whole submissive thing, but Tim Keller was one of the people that I came across and really, really liked. He had a fantastic sermon series on marriage, and just the way that he framed a few things. I'd have to go back and find exactly what I found. It so beautiful, but just that relationship and what man and woman, husband and wife, are supposed to be to each other. But it's certainly, you can certainly tell that if only one person in the relationship is a Christian and is approaching the marriage that way, and the other person is having a self-centered approach, which is very often, if you're not doing it in the faith-filled way, it's a self-centered way. What can I get out of the relationship that it's not going to work? That would fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately what this guy was experiencing that I was talking to, and that's why it's so important that. One of the things that I think that we do really well normally, or I would say a vast majority of the time, is communicate. And constantly trying to be an open book. And because of that, and I'm more of a talker than you are,
Yes.
Lauren is a silent stewing type. And
thinking, not stewing. Stewing is such a negative word. Holy smokes.
And I am, let's get the cards on the table and deal with it.
But I know you've now made me like, if there's anything that I pick up that's wrong, it's like, I know you're lying.
Yeah, Lauren's become the master communicator here. Ronald Reagan's got nothing on her. And, so again.
I'm just not as forthcoming with my stuff. I want to know your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, we start the small group, and the small group's going on.
Yeah. Okay. So continuing the story. So I think that went on for a year almost.
Yeah.
Maybe not that quite long. To the point that you gave up on me.
I'm like, I should have tried the reverse psychology way sooner.
Well, I guess you were still getting to know me. So through that time, like I would find my mind. So the pastor at the point, he would end pretty much all the services with an invitation to invite Jesus into your life. So for
I like that they do that.
And I would be out walking the dogs, and I would find the words of that coming through my mind. Get those out. But that kept happening, and and so like little things like that I just noticed that my heart and my mind were already there, but I wasn't thinking no. And so Jason finally, he was like, I just don't think that this is going to work. Like, not our marriage, like that. You're never going to get there. I said, well, wait a minute. What if I already am? I'm ready.
Literally, that's how it went.
So he was like, oh my God. So he went and he grabbed, there was this, in the John Eldredge book, right? The Love and War book, there was a prayer to accept Jesus. And he was like, I could hear him like just running around. Oh my God, this is happening. So we went out and did the acceptance prayer. And that was that.
Yeah. And then we were baptized together. I had been sprinkle baptized at Park Street Church in Boston a few years earlier. And then we were baptized together at City Church in immersion.
Yeah.
Which was really cool, given our testimony.
Yeah, together. And I think the biggest thing, I mean, you guys all know Baby B. Baby B right now, she's 15 months old. She's amazing.
Yeah.
We share stuff about her all the time. And neither of us wanted her. And that's kind of a hard thing to say. But I was very adamant in not wanting kids. Like, never, ever. Everyone who knew me growing up, Lauren did not want kids. My parents knew that they were never going to get grandbabies out of me. Just not going to happen. I went into the relationship with Jason knowing that he didn't want kids either. And I was like, perfect. Don't have to deal with it. Good. And then he kind of refound his faith through Operation Restored Warrior, and on the phone from across the country told me now he wanted kids. That made me freak out a little bit. But finding faith, accepting Jesus, my heart totally changed. And I totally give that to him on my heart changing for wanting kids. And thank the Lord on that one, because I cannot imagine not having her now and not having these experiences. It's such a blessing. So, that I can't. I'm so grateful to be on the path that I'm on now.
Yeah. Have you ever figured out? Like, I figured out I didn't want to have kids because of abandonment. Do you know why you were so disconnected?
No, I have never. I didn't have any, like, my childhood and family unit was. I had like what would be called the picture perfect little American life, as far as two married parents, a sister, the whole deal. And I've never really delved into where that feeling came from. I just was never. Dogs were way better than people. Like,
right. I think it's your struggle with people probably that
I
kinda
just
turned you on to
never
that.
like just being around kids and whiny and annoying, and it just was a turn off. And
It's
I
just
never
so amazing to see because you're like the super mom. You're literally like the best mom on the
B
planet.
makes it so easy, but
Yeah. And, so anyways, so, now having a child, and it's funny because, we were talking about this the other day and how people who tend to be atheists will throw all their love and affection at a dog and think it's the same thing. Now, you're a reformed crazy dog lady.
I'm a reformed crazy dog lady. I hadn't gone too far down that path. Just made a career out of it. Jason, I was a service dog trainer, and I think God knew that he needed to save me from being a crazy dog lady, because literally 2 weeks before I met Jason, I had been home in Maine for a vacation from Virginia, crying my eyes out by myself on the little point down by the water near where I live. Miserable in Virginia. And I was going to move home with my parents and start my own nonprofit service dog organization up here. I was convinced of it. It was my plan. I was going to quit service dogs by December. This was in August. Move back to Maine. Done deal. 2 weeks later, I walk into a gym. And I met Jason. And we were in Virginia for 5 more years after that.
Yeah. And then I'm the one who had to drag you here.
Yeah.
She got soft down there in the South.
Gosh, it's beautiful right now, and I'm already dreading winter.
She's been dreading winter since May.
I have.
I'm just putting it
I have.
She has literally been dreading winter since May. If anything, Maine is too hot for me. I know that sounds crazy, but it's been...
Guys.
So anyways, you find Jesus, we have baby B, and is that the end of the story?
Well, it's kind of where we are. But I mean, we moved up to Maine. We're here in Bangor very largely because of Calvary Chapel and finding our wonderful follower John sharing Ken's video with you. And so I think, and you kind of immediately jumped into helping with security and the podcast with Ken and talking about doing a gym for fatherless guys in town. And I remember saying to you, like, I haven't figured out really my purpose and kind of what that looks like. Whether it's volunteering in some capacity at the church or kind of what does God want to do with me right now. I guess God wants me to be a mom, but I'm
well, you're crushing it. So
again, easy assignment.
Yeah.
So figuring that out, that's where I am right now.
All right. So that's who Lauren is, and how she got here. And what we hope to do in this podcast is, we're not experts, we're not therapists, we're not whatever, but we have a pretty darn remarkable relationship. If I do say so myself, it's my crowning achievement, in my opinion. It's the best thing I've done. And, we just want to share with you guys throughout however long we do this, what works for us, and show you that, I didn't find happiness until my 40s, and so I just want to give everyone out there hope and let them know that, keep at it, keep at it and don't give up. So now I want to talk about, let's transition to some of the events that we've seen on TV and in the news and all over social media. So there was this, there's been a lot of violence committed by BLM activists and Antifa activists. Well, they're both terrorist organizations, if you ask me. I want to explain that. I think BLM as an organization They admit what they are. They're Marxists. They're a terrorist organization. Antifa, anti-fascist, they are a terrorist organization. Now, I don't have a problem with the words Black Lives Matter. I don't have the problem. I mean, it's just like, Lauren said it to me once, and someone explained to her, Cancer Awareness Day doesn't mean that, Breast Cancer Awareness Day doesn't mean anything against brain cancer versus, lung cancer or whatever.
The sentiment of Black Lives Matter is something that, of course, you agree with.
It's a no-brainer, right?
The organization,
Black Lives Matter, and the political movement and the extortion of the American population that we're seeing, and the betrayal of black communities by that organization is what I have issues with. Mm-hmm. So, and what's happening in our country today, where we're literally ripping ourselves apart over a lie that there's systemic racism in the police department, which is absolutely 100% false. Are there individual cases? Yes. There are humans. Wherever you will find humans, you will find individual cases of bad things happening, but it's on such a small, infinitesimal scale. It's not what you're being led to believe. And anybody who tells you otherwise is full of it. So, and the fact that, every vendor, every person, every company bought into this lie and gave it a seat at the table, that we're all dealing with this. And now you have senior citizens getting beat up and killed. You have young children being executed and shot because they're white.
Has there been a motive established with that?
There, as far as if you're talking about that young 5-year-old kid, yeah, I don't know about that, where the motive came up with that. But what about the white kid who got his face cut being walked by his nanny in New York? Looked down, saw the white kid, cut his face. Yeah, the countless videos out there of white people being beat down. Yeah. Well, by usually black individuals saying Black Lives Matter the whole time they're beating them down. And then, of course, they all spin up some story like, yeah, he said this, he said that. And it's like, yeah, this really skinny dude surrounded by a bunch of black guys is going to drop, the N-word. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's just so ridiculous. And, what we don't talk about, unfortunately, with this is there's a statistic out there that is almost impossible to find. And it is never talked about. It is never acknowledged except in very small circles, and it's black on white crime, which is astronomical compared to white on black crime. I have never seen, nor have I've talked to cops all around the country. I've never seen white on black crime. I have only seen black on white crime.
So you've policed in the North.
Yep, and in the South.
Yes. And you were in the neighborhoods, in the communities where you were in the largely black communities.
I was in massive black communities, yes, but I'd also have to rotate through the financial district where they would go and prey upon college kids running around with,
So do you know, is it different in rural Alabama?
I don't know, but the statistics that you see out there don't really exist. And for how inflamed we get off these isolated cases, right? Where the whole country burns down off of one guy doing whatever. Sure. Why aren't they showing 1,000 of those a day? Because they don't happen. You know what I'm saying? Yes. They don't happen. But whereas if you can go see it the other way, countless times, even little kids torturing another kid saying they're ugly because they don't look like them. I mean, it's absolutely horrific. So, my whole point with all this is that we're torn apart right now. And for you as our listeners, I want you guys, when you're out walking around and you're using your situational awareness out there are now two groups of individuals you have to watch out for 100%. One, you need to watch out for people who don't look like you, and anyone else. And then you have to look for the other people who kind of look like you, but instead they have blue hair, steel running through their face, wearing certain clothing that is anarchist clothing, a skateboard, which they use as weapons. These are the types of people now that your Antifa and your BLM protester Those are now people that if you're, a Christian white person, you need to watch out for that. People are getting beat down and robbed and hurt every day. God forbid you have a MAGA hat on or a patriotic shirt on or a bumper sticker on your car or any of these other things, right? So see the world for what it is. You're not crazy for crossing the street because you see a bunch of people that don't look like you. You're not crazy when you see the people all in black and masks on coming your way. That's just the world we live in. So I want to talk about this latest event in Portland where there was a lot of bad information going on about it. One, the first information that came out was correct. That this guy and his wife were attacked and beat down, right? Then the left was counter spinning this and saying he was trying to run over people. And then the full length video came out and you can see his wife gets jumped by, I think, a transvestite or, trans whatever. And they're like beating up on his wife and he tries to get out of his car and a scuffle ensues and then they get into their truck, not a car, a truck. And then they're driving away. They don't run over anyone. People are beating on their car. They're trying not to hit anyone. They go speeding away. They're like weaving around, doing some stuff. They lose control. They crash into a building.
They crash into a pole.
Yeah, a pole. And of course, it's only a couple blocks away, and the mob follows them over there, pulls this guy out of the car, and he totally doesn't resist, totally does what they say. They throw him to the ground. He's on his knees. He's getting punched. He's surrounded by a bunch of black guys and white guys, Antifa and BLM. And the black guys are dropping the N-word and screaming BLM and punching him in the face. And finally, this turd in a security jacket, which I got his name right now. He's wanted by the police.
Marquise Love.
Kicks him in the back of the head and knocks him unconscious, and he's laying on the ground bleeding. And he was taken to the hospital in serious condition. Now, of course, the police, they're talking about calling 911. The police, this is in the insane world of Portland, Oregon, and they had to get the riot police there to break through the crowd because they didn't want the police in there to go save someone's life, right? And now Fox News is running with it. I don't think I'm going to guess that ABC, NBC, CBS probably hasn't aired 1 minute of it, showing the brutal attack and beatdown of this poor couple. They robbed them blind. They took his wallet. They ripped through his car and stole it. They're freaking animals, right? And then there's other countless things. I just saw a thing. There was 16 teenagers who broke into a store and just robbed it blind. And everyone's just sitting there filming
everywhere,
Yeah.
And
San Francisco.
I think as far as just to wrap up that story, so some of the false information there's been reports that guy died, which is not true. He's being released. He's stable. Thank God.
Yes.
But so if you see anything out there being circulated that the victim died, that is not true. And another tidbit. So one of the things that led up to this is that it seems like they're verifying this, was helping a transgender woman who had things stolen from her by this mob, and that's what got their attention, was because he was trying to help this transgender woman, and then got into the truck and the whole thing happened.
And that brings me to the main point of what I actually want to talk about today, is can you be friends with Democrats anymore? And I'm going to say no. I don't think that there is a legitimate, innocent Democrat voter out there anymore because of what they're linked to and what they are, responsible for. So, for example, I have family members that are environmentalists that vote Democrat just because they consider them the Green Party and, whatever. But they're also contributing to the party that is defunding the police. They're contributing to the wholesale slaughter of the unborn and born children, governmental theft, infringing upon my rights to defend myself, and taking away freedoms from everyday Americans and, basically spending us all into poverty and ruining our children's future. They can't isolate one of those out because it's not like, unfortunately, the days of Democrats and Republicans being able to branch off and vote their conscience is gone, right? Up until Obamacare, you could do that, right? So there was, you had to have 60 votes and there was give and take and people were free to vote their conscience and everyone kind of got along. They'd go drinking afterwards. They were friends and they had true diplomacy, right? And they would, compromise and work things out. Since Obamacare, with a simple majority where they passed the largest spending in the history of our country on, a technicality, now it's simple majority. So now it's all about just getting that one extra seat and it's scorched earth. Right? So now you can't vote for Democrat, the guy from West Virginia, Manchin. Because what's he going to do? He's going to vote the way Nancy Pelosi tells him to vote every time. Right? I mean, that's just the way it is. So there is no pro-Second Amendment Democrat because when it comes down to it, they're going to vote the way Nancy Pelosi or their party tells them to. There is no pro-life Democrat. If you're a pro-life Democrat, you're the shittiest pro-life Democrat in history because you're voting for the party that's killing babies and will always kill babies. Right? So how good of a pro-lifer are you? You're totally incompetent at it, but you're great at, destroying our police department, ruining our economy, taking away Second Amendment rights, governmental theft, on and on and on. So, I've just gotten to the point where I've only got two things that I can talk to people about that are Democrats. Weather and food.
Dogs.
Lauren, you've got one more. You've got dogs. And I guess dogs is one of those things that I can add on to my list where I can talk about how cute dogs are or babies. But literally, is there anything else that you can talk to them about of substance?
I think it's kind of what level friendship are you talking about? I think having a deep and meaningful friendship has become a lot harder because there's so many things that you're not going to agree on. And I think the interesting, there's Democrats who call themselves Christian, and that was a question that asked Ken at one of his previous podcasts was, how can you be a Democrat and a Christian because you are not repenting for the sins that, basically like the party line, you go down it and it's things that would be called sins, the killing baby, et cetera. And so if that's what your stance is, so you're not repenting for that because that's what you believe, but then you call yourself a Christian. So that part I'm still working through.
And I don't even know if he fully grasped it. He says if you ask forgiveness for it, but what if you're not asking forgiveness for those sins?
So I'm still working through that in my
I'd like to expand upon
baby
that
Christian understanding. But so it's like, how can you, having a relationship with a Democrat who's a Christian, you'd think that you would at least have that in common, but then you don't even, your levels of Christianity or kind of how you operate under your Christianity is different. So yes, I think having a meaningful relationship, friendship, has become a lot harder, if not
How can
impossible.
I be with a friend who wants to destroy me? They want to strip my rights and throw me in prison because I'm not going to comply with it.
Well, they probably don't want to throw you in prison. They want to take your rights, and they probably think you're ridiculous for not complying. But they would not want Jason Perry in prison.
Right. Until it was time for him to
be
go
an
to prison.
unfortunate side effect.
Yeah. So, I just really think we need to start drawing a line. I'm not talking about I was talking to a good friend of ours, Mike Ferrugio, and I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about that, but it's time for us to fight back. And whether it's social media posts, a flag on your front step, a sign in your yard, a bumper sticker on your car, even though I know that I have told you on the tactical side, don't flag your vehicle because you're out in public. So maybe that's not the right one to do. But what I think is, I don't think, well, let me finish this point up and then move on. I don't think you can be friends with a Democrat. I don't think you should be friends with Democrats because I think you need to hold them accountable for their actions and show them how much they're hurting you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth continuing to have dialogue, to make effort, educate yourself so that you can speak eloquently, calmly, decisively, convincingly. I think the ways that people go about it on social media now, and that they, with people that were their friends, but they're calling them idiots or much worse, kind of on social media. I think that does nothing but convince the other person that they're right about you.
Well, that's why it's so impossible, though, babe, is because it used to be we could agree on a set of facts. And if I cited something, it would be considered a fact. Now there are competing facts, right? There is, by design, the America's enemies who are doing this, and it's Russia and China and Iran and, and all the socialists and Marxists and communists out there who want to destroy our country. They have totally, made this a minefield for all of us to navigate so that we can't find common ground. Whereas I cite as something that Fox News reported, oh, that's Fox News, that's fake news. You cite something from CNN. Well, nobody watches CNN. They're not even, I mean, they've discredited themselves on the hour.
Yeah.
So, so I really just don't think, I think that you're wasting your time on them, and you're better off working on other people or finding people who have more in common with you and growing together that way than investing in friendships that are completely destructive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that
if you're going to be real, if I'm going to tell you, I can put on a paint of face on and smile, and the whole time I'm thinking you're crazy, and you're looking at me and you're thinking I'm crazy, and we're just being civil because we have a history, right? So, I mean, I just honestly think it's not, you're either on our side or you're not. You're either on the side of good or you're on the side of evil, and that's where it is. And I can't think of anything more evil than the wholesale slaughter of babies.
Yeah. Yes.
So, or allowing a 3 or 4-year-old to choose their gender. I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah, that case is going on in Texas right now, the 5-year-old boy or something like that.
I mean, what is more cruel than that?
Yeah.
And so anyways, I just, I thank Ken for this, because I can love them. I can love the Democrats just like I can, love a kid who's gone bad or whatever, But I don't have to like them, and I don't have to waste my energy and time on them. And I don't have to help them.
No, but I think remain above board.
No, of course you want to be above board. And if someone was drowning, I'm not going to ask them if they're a Democrat or a Republican.
Not.
I'm going to save their life regardless.
As far as how you treat them.
Yeah, I'm going to treat everybody with respect, and I'm going to channel so they see, Jesus in me, right? But at the same time, do you think Jesus would go party with a bunch of, baby killers? You think he'd have a lot of kind words for them? Unrepentant baby killers?
Yeah, I think it's obviously, Jesus would put out there what is right. Like he wouldn't not put any effort into those. But he would
say you need to repent.
He would put out there what is right and what they should do, and to give them the chance. And so I think, where is that line on just throwing your hands up?
Well, he said,
and then
he says it, shake the dust off on your sandals, and you are to pursue them. And Paul says this, you're to, and Ken covered this. It's not that I've got all this scripture memorized, but Paul said, hey, you're to debate, right? But the second they turn insulting and they're not willing to hear you, it's no longer constructive, and move on to the next set of ears that are willing to hear you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just, when you see there are police officers who are blind for life now from those lasers that those Antifa guys are doing. And it got this much coverage on one channel. And it just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see what's happening to that. It breaks my heart to see people who don't understand how privileged they are to live in the United States of America dancing and booty shaking on the American flag that my friends died for.
Yeah.
And it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting to go and say, hey, looting is okay. Destroying someone's business and looting them is okay. It's reparations for some things that happened hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, that's just dumb.
And they wonder how they're not they're purposely dividing us. Democrats can't win on policy. They can only win on identity politics.
Emotion.
Yeah. It's never on policy. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking and it's sad. I wish that the college campuses like Friendships would be these places where we can come in and exchange ideas. We'll do it, but the problem is there is no compromise anymore. Everyone just finding you or my friend Mike, who I used to be who was my partner on BPD, whose mind could be changed on things, who was willing to hear sides and entertain things. That person is so rare now because they're brainwashed from go through college, and now their social group is. It's like the 60s all over again, except 100 times worse.
Yeah. I think it's just so sad. I mean, I don't know. I guess you can't be all that sad for parents who, let it happen the way to frame it.
They checked out. They trusted the state.
For them to, a lot of them conservative, Christian, but they've sent their kids through the liberal school system, and their kids come back from college hating their parents for who they are now and their beliefs, and just souring that entire relationship. But it must be like, what happened to my kid? But
what happened to your kid is you didn't mentor your kid.
You took your hands off.
Yeah, you turned them over to the state to be educated, and they turned them against you because the flower power children of the 60s became the college professors and the teachers.
Well, I remember in high school and stuff, my dad was voting. He was supporting Bush, and he was against gay marriage. And I was like, why would you be against that? Love is love. That's so terrible of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't ever trying to preach the other way, but I thought the school system told me.
Yeah. So I know that we covered a lot of heavy stuff on this, and that's what, what Lauren and I want to roll into is these deep, passionate topics. One, because she'll keep me from putting my foot in my mouth too much. I hope. But at the same time, we know these kitchen table issues. We're all wrestling with them. And how do you navigate that as a loving family? And it can be pretty darn challenging. And I know that Lauren challenges me all the time on things I say.
Yep.
I think I do pretty well, but she does correct me from time to time, and when I am being passionate, and she will show me the counterpoint, and she's talked me down on things. So
I try.
Yeah. So, what else are we going to talk about, Lauren?
I think that was that case there was of the person, the guy who was attacked was the primary. I know that one thing that's been catching my eye, and I think it's a good thing, the conversation has been becoming more to the forefront recently. Obviously, it's not a new issue, but sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Has been really on the news a lot recently. I'm not sure kind of what the uptick there. Oh, I know that there's some rings that have been busted a lot. I know Trump is going after them a little bit more hardcore. Yeah, the Trump administration
has really gone after that.
But also, I shared a video on the page, Patriot Crusader Mission page. There have been some people who went in and found toys, and there's been several different kinds of toys.
Oh, yeah, this is disgusting.
There was one toy, and this is not my world, so I can't remember which one it was, but it was a little girl doll, And she had like the typical like touch my belly kind of interactions. And then the box was and said something like 15 exclusive noises or something like that. And there was a button like literally in her private parts where you would go and you'd press it and she would go, ooh, like, ooh, tickle, ooh, oh, and like make all of these like what could be sexual sounds.
Right.
And
absolutely disgusting.
And so it's like normalizing for little girls, you know, that's if people touch you, that's a good thing if people touch you there, and like if little boys were playing with it, that's what you should do with little girls. And the company was like, oh, it wasn't meant to be like that. It was like if you sat her down, then the button would be activated. And like they came up with some excuse as far as it wasn't meant to be that. And then I saw another one recently. They're like little figurine things like this, and I guess they're very popular right now. There's a bunch of different little girl things. And I don't know if they come with clothes or something, but she was showing them and they were somewhat naked. Like they didn't have any identifiers, but they were naked. And she's like, I saw this thing that if you put them in cold water, all this like racy lingerie appears on them. And so she was dipping all of her daughter's dolls into cold water, and these like knit stockings and like leather lacy thong lingerie was appearing on these little dolls and stuff, and it was just so twisted. And it's this stuff that it's like people don't know that they're buying these toys for their little cool girls or whatever. And just and that's the start for girls and for little boys who are around, if they have sisters or whatever, that mindset, just the sexualized everything for these little kids, and then the access to internet and all this stuff. I watched a video today about, kind of the evolution of girls who end up being sex trafficked and kind of how it starts and stuff. So such an important conversation to have. I think it's so good that
we
it's
can dedicate more. That, and we have friends in Deliver Fund who actually help track down sex traffickers and liberate kids. So I'd love to get
so I think
them on here.
And I know that this group is filled with parents of different age, boys and girls, and so it's what conversations and actions should you be having at any stage, both boys and girls, between boys being exposed to porn and girls being either abused or sexualized from social media and stuff like that, and how they all contribute to these girls and sometimes boys being picked up into the sex trade market. So I think that that's something that's been on my mind and my heart recently a lot, in that I've been seeing it. So it's more forefront. And then just picturing anything happening to be just makes me sick. So
and then I think the Jeffrey Epstein case has really brought a lot of sex trafficking to light. And then today, you've got those photos that were released of Bill Clinton getting a massage from the girl who was raped, on the plane that he was on 29 times to the island.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so they actually got him on film with her, getting a massage, getting ready to go to Epstein Island.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, and that's who's speaking at your convention tonight. Is probably on stage right now.
Yeah, probably.
Absolutely disgusting. Yeah, but you're all about feminism and you're all about all that. But, you're the party of monsters. Disgusting. So anyways, we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. So the next episode that you're going to see from me will be a tactical episode. We've done a lot of the spiritual talking. Now we've talked about some of the news. So I'm going to be bringing you some firearm safety tips and some combatives coming up here in the next few days. That's going to be a solid portion of our content. I apologize, it's been taking too long. It's just I don't have my camera guy here in Maine. So we're trying to figure out how we can do this in a quality way that is worth sharing with you guys, because this is just turning on a camera with their set and talking to you, and I want to put out some first-rate products. For those of you who have joined us on the Patreon page, I want to talk about the Patreon page. The Patriot Crusader Mission Patreon page is how we're starting to pay our bills right now.
Thank you.
We want to thank you to our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Patreon, or Patriot Crusader Mission's Patreon page. And you can join for as little as $5 a month. You get access to our Facebook group for that amount. And that's where we do our Thursday night Bible. Well, we do a Bible study every day. And then we have a group that meets on Thursday at 8 o'clock. It's just like a small group, of guys, a lot of vets, and cops and everything else. And it's just a great place for you to get that fellowship that you may not have where you're at, depending on, I know there's some people living behind enemy lines right now. We're finding a Christian conservative might be pretty hard to find. Anyone who lives in Boston knows what I'm talking about. So, you can come on there. We post a Bible study, a workout, every day, basically. The more you give, you get more access to more stuff. It's just to encourage you to donate more, including swag. I want to also show you that we've got these. I went out and had about 30 of these hats, different colors and all that. So I think there's actually 20 of them, 20 different colors. The red, white, and blue logo. It's pretty sharp.
The logo
We're really
is awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty pumped about that. And polo shirts up there. We got an awesome Jesus shirt.
A baby onesie, guys.
A baby onesie
Come
with
on
the
now.
logo on, polo shirts. And then we redid our body bag shirt for Patriot Crusader Mission, and I'm really proud of how that all looks. We also have some online courses coming your way. I'm really, really excited about everything here. I'm really excited about being able to throw everything I have at Patriot Crusader Mission. Our goal, our mission, is to turn you into competent Christian warriors to help forge you, which means you got to be squared away with God. You got to be in shape and ready to defend yourself with what God gave you, and then add to that with weapons and skill set. So that's what this is all about.
And love.
Yeah. And then
your marriage, strong marriage.
Yeah. And then, of course, having that super solid foundation of, being that leader and having that strong relationship with your wife and with your kids, and start mentoring everyone around you. Right, that's what I want to turn you guys into, is force multipliers. So you can come in and you look the part, you act the part, you are the part. You're a Patriot Crusader, and people are going to want to be like you. So that's the goal of all this. I'll put the link in the description below to join the Patreon account. We really, really, really could use your help there to support this mission so that we can keep throwing a lot of hours at it. Right now, I am designing a WordPress site. That's pretty scary, but
He's been doing an awesome job working to get this to you guys.
So
thank you for your support.
It's my favorite thing to do in the whole world is to, I've spent so much time educating people that would hate me if they knew me. I'm glad to be finally educating people that, would like me if they knew me. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I think that's all we got for tonight.
I think so.
All right. Well, hey, I hope you guys found this, entertaining and got some value out of it. We'll see you again soon. Patriot Crusader, out.